So there you have it. 3 observations for graduation. God is utterly faithful, but notoriously unpredictable. Philip Yancey once wrote, "Any faith that does not take into account for such complexities as these cannot last." He went on to say, quite simply, being a human being is hazardous to your health. Which strikes very close to my second observation, that you don't have to survive to succeed. And last, there'll always be something in your life to keep you from the false comforts of this world and beckon you to risk with the Comforter himself. You could take the essence of every commencement address that's ever been given and reduce it to 5 words. Go forth and be strong. It is the summary statement of the very first commencement address ever given. The entire book of Deuteronomy. Moses has been holding forth for 30 chapters. And my guess, this is the longest commencement address on record. He finally moves into chapter 31, just before a closing song and a final prayer. And he sums up everything he said for 30 chapters in just 2 words. Rock Hazak. See if you can say that with me. Rock Hazak. In English it means to be strong. And it was true when Moses first spoke it. It was true when Joshua and the people began to shout it back and forth to each other. It was true when the Israelites took that as their battle cry when they marched in to take the promised land. It was true when David said these words imparting to Solomon on his deathbed. They were true when Paul, as he was about to leave this world, said them to his disciple Timothy. It's always true. And here's why. It's always given in the context of God's sufficiency. The battle belongs to him. It's his strength and his spirit that is always the source that we draw from whenever "go forth and be strong" is sounded. Life in Christ is meant to be a romantic quest fought out on a battlefield. We never see the battle plan, the whole of it, or the whole entire story from our vantage point, but our Commander-in-Chief does, and his love knows no limits for us. Years ago, I was sitting next to an old man on an airplane. I asked him where he was from, and he said, "Israel." And I said, "Wow, you grew up in Israel?" He said, "Yes." So that must mean that you were there during the 6-Day War? "Yes, I was a wing commander." I said, "Wow, you're kidding. You flew jets during the 6-Day War?" I said, "Yes." I said, "You must have seen miracles." And he said, "Yes, I saw miracles." Then I looked at this old man and I said, "Do the words Rock Hazak mean anything to you?" And suddenly this old man sitting next to me morphed into some strange creature of steel. And he seemed to grow in size and his eyes began to blare. He scared me. "How do you know these words?" "Well, I'm a student of your book. I know that Rock Hazak was the battle cry of the Israelis 3,500 years ago." "Oh, it still is." We're part of something much bigger than the sum of our collective parts. God still calls us into battle, and he doesn't just win, he wins big against all odds. At the end of every road, with nowhere to turn, 3 days after the grave is sealed and the guards posted, love finds a way. And so it will be here. This moment will pass into history just as every moment and season must. But not one smidgen of eternal worth will ever be lost. And those who press into God's heart and enter the fray will one day be asked, "Did you see miracles?" And we'll be able to say, "Yes, I saw a miracle." And so I close with this blessing and hope. I pray God's favor on each of you. May you leave in this place your cares, your uncertainties, any unforgiveness still close to your heart, and in their stead, take up faith and hope and love. And with these weapons of faith, build magnificent cathedrals to God. Conquer foes within and without. May you find your place in the next chapter of God's narrative written just for you. Good and done. Graduates, faculty, staff, and friends of Rivendell College, well done. And don't forget to crow.